Hello, everyone. Welcome to this weekly lead nudge. The topic for this week is going to be around innovation. And no, I do not mean necessarily only about the latest and most rapid technology evolution about AI. I actually want us to take a broader perspective of innovation and the correlation of team success and our role as inclusive leaders. Innovation is often seen as an outcome from a successful organization. But the thing that we don't always see is that innovation is the outcome of team culture. And team culture is actually part of our responsibility as an inclusive leader. And we are the ones who bring that behavior within or drive that behavior within our teams. So let's take a step back and let's take it with a bit more detail on what do I mean by a culture of innovation. I have my notes here. So when I mean a culture of innovation, I mean making sure that we are welcoming new ideas, that our teams are bringing something outside of the box towards a way of working, towards a different project. And it's not only about bringing the ideas, but that there is a way to move forward with them. There is a way to either experiment with them, there is a way to explore whether they are actually successful or not. And that whenever some of them might not be successful because that's just the journey of innovation, we receive the failure as part of the process, which is often not done, right? How do we do this, right? So one thing is to talk about that innovation, but how do we make it happen as a team leader? And I would say there is a foundational layer that we need to take before exploring or before embracing the idea generation. And that foundational piece goes around making sure that the teams feel safe to bring any new thoughts, any new ideas, and that those ideas are not received as a dumb idea or as in what is he or she or they suggesting that does not make sense. But instead, every idea is welcome, and out of the multitude of ideas, some of them might move forward towards making it happen, right? That doesn't mean that we need to just, as leaders, just take everything and just develop everything. That's not the point. But it's about creating that process and ensuring that that foundation is there. Of course, talking a little bit about process, that also means ensuring that there is a space for those ideas to live, whether that is or to be shared, right? So communication channels. And I mean, are there team meetings where there is space, right? And we take the conversation a little bit broader than the operational day-to-day, week-to-week conversation, and it's more broad. Is there a mirror board? Is there a spreadsheet where all these thoughts can be stored? Maybe to be taken into account in later on, right? In a hackathon or explore in a innovation week or something like that. So that needs to be there. Otherwise, those ideas lived in a notebook from our team members, and goes against that team culture of innovation. And then the last piece goes around making sure that we have a continuous learning mindset. And this one I want to touch upon and share an experience from my own journey. As a leader, I want to confess that this is one of the hardest things that was one of the hardest things for me to really embrace. Failure for me was failure meant failure. And while I was working in growth marketing, this is one of the things that challenged me and helped me rewire my brain on how I was taking the word of failure. Because in growth marketing, part of that methodology was to just bring as many ideas as you could, and the majority of those ideas is gonna be a failure. And just by the process, one of them might become a success. But that meant understanding that the growth was in the process, not necessarily on the outcome from that success. And of course, that meant about experiments on marketing. But if we extrapolate that into leadership, into personal development, into any of our other projects that we might be leading, that also helped me understand that it's about the process, not necessarily about the outcome from that first experiment. It's about encouraging that innovation from within the team. So, what can we do as leaders, right? I have talked about setting up the foundation. I have talked about the communication or setting up communication channels. And then I want to talk about the topic of resources because a lot of times we think that innovation can only happen if there are resources. And some of us might be working in um, might have experience and be working in big corporates that have those budgets to either fund new ideas or either fund training and provide training for innovation to happen. But the reality is that there's a big group of us within the community that are also working or have worked in startups where there is no budget for maybe for new ideas, or there is no budget for experimentation or to fund training. That is a reality. So what can we do, right? That doesn't mean that as leaders we have our hands tied. What that means is that we need to rely on a third resource that we often do not talk about, and it's the resource of time. As leaders, we do have the freedom and we should have and empower our teams to take space within the agendas every week, every month, to allocate time to innovate. And that means often just blocking time to think as a group, brainstorm, add some learning time within the agenda. And just by doing that, it's already a way to acknowledge and to understand that that is an inclusive leader skill. Why? How is this connecting to inclusive leadership? Not everybody will have the time to learn something new, to embrace this innovation, this evolution of AI or any other technology outside of working hours. Acknowledging that we might in our teams we might have parents that do not have that additional time. We might have caretakers that have their full agenda already, is a way to bring that perspective of inclusion and at the same time make sure that we do not steer away from innovation. So, for this week, the call to action for all of us in the community is to focus and allocate some time within our team's agenda this week and block some brainstorm, some innovation session, and even bringing this topic in your next team meeting and encouraging our team members to just block some time to innovate, to learn something new. So remember to lead as you are with courage, inclusion, and heart.